A couple of years ago, I wrote a letter to my dads who served my biological father, as well as my stepfather who became my adopting father. And I shared it several years ago. I've rewrote it somewhat. I was again moved in the action yesterday with thousands of scouts moving across the National Cemetery. And I don't know if you all know this about me, but I'm fairly liberal. Did you? Okay, just so you know. But I would knock anybody upside the head that would question my patriotism. Okay? I'm not a nationalist, but I am a patriot. And so I share this letter with some changes, but I share this letter again. To my dads who served, I want to thank you for your service in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force of our nation. Dad, when you went into the Air Force, you went as a young man to get away from the declining steel mills of Allentown, Pennsylvania. You were already a hard worker. During your childhood summers, you would live with your Uncle Howard and help him on the farm. You started digging graves in the Lutheran cemetery when you were 5 years old. When the drill sergeant would burst into the dormitory and yell at everyone to get up, get showers, get dressed, and be in formation in 5 minutes because everyone is burning daylight and it is no one's birthday today, it mostly felt like an extension of your civilian life. You thrived on the discipline and you brought with you a deep respect for authority. You learned how to fix the latest aircraft and lead groups of people as you rose through the ranks to become a sergeant. You wore the uniform with pride. In fact, you kept the uniform with all the insignia and the badges pressed and protected with a plastic bag and hanging in the hall closet of our home. After all, one never knew when their country might need them to serve again. It is important to go on with our lives, but it is also important to be ready. Your active duty ended in the early 60s, and you were part of the reserves when I first met you as a little boy and lived across the street. You were fun, kind, and served the best bachelor salted buttered noodles I had ever had. Over time, you became my stepfather, and then you adopted me as your own, and I became a Heintzelman. Being your first son, the oldest, and being plopped into your life and inheriting the role of fatherhood without the benefits of infancy, I think you tried to fill in the gaps with your military experience. So every Saturday morning was drill sergeant morning. There were cars to fix, yards to care for, sawdust and streets to be swept, gardens to be tended, rocks to be picked, tools to fetch, and of course, daylight was burning and not to be wasted. You are who you are, and you are mostly who you are before the Air Force, but military service taught you many things, gave you opportunities, and solidified much of your character. For who you are, and the way the Air Force helped form you, I'm grateful. The Bible speaks of training up a child in the ways of the Lord, and so you passed on many great qualities to me, which have served me and my family well. I want to say thank you to my father who served in the Army. You were 27 years old when you were drafted to go to Vietnam. You had already left Mom and I to be ourselves when I was too young to remember. I have a handful of memories of you, but knew nothing of you. Being drafted to serve in Vietnam made certain that you would not be a part of my life for many years. When finally reconnected, when I had a wife and family of my own, it was then that I learned that you were a carpenter assigned to a mobile Army surgical hospital, a MASH unit. As you shared very little of that experience with me, I started filling in the blanks with scenes from the TV show MASH. I imagined you putting up the structures as the unit moved from place to place. I imagined you carrying stretchers of wounded and dead soldiers. You were not skilled in any of the medical services, so you did a lot of the grunt work. Your charm was being easygoing and making others laugh. I imagine that in between the deluge of blood and the cacophony of cries of pain, your gifts were needed and appreciated. Mom and your sister said everybody liked you. I got the impression that in some ways you did not belong in this world. Life was too mean, too demanding for someone like you. So, you endeared people to you as you mostly drifted through life. Maybe being laid back and drifting through life was the way you were before you went to Vietnam. Maybe being laid back and drifting through life is a post-traumatic stress reaction to what you experienced. The total number of soldiers deployed to Vietnam was 536,100. The total number of wounded was 303,644. The total number of deaths was 58,220. How many of these did you witness? You did not die in Vietnam. There's much I did not know about you. I missed your life. I missed your death. I missed seeing your body laying in a casket. Our hello when we reconnected was awkward, and our goodbye was non-existent. You did not die in Vietnam, but I wonder if something of yourself died or got left behind. I have more questions than answers. Nonetheless, if not as a son, as a citizen, I say thank you. I share these stories on Memorial Day weekend for several reasons. One, it is right to express gratitude to those who served. Two, it is right to acknowledge the complicated dynamics of military service and the ways which service gives and takes and shapes not only the lives of the women and men who serve, but the lives of the people who love the women and the men who serve. Three, it is right to honor all such service to our nation, and this includes those who serve as first responders. Four, it is right to give extra acknowledgement to those who served in the extreme and gave the most by losing their lives in such service. At the Arlington National Cemetery is the Confederate Memorial. On the north side of the memorial is carved the inscription written by Dr. Randolph Harrison McKim, who went from the ranks of the Confederate Army into the ministry and was the rector of Epiphany Church in Washington, D.C. for 32 years. The inscription reads, quote, "Not for fame or reward, not for place or for rank, not lured by ambition or goaded by necessity, but in simple obedience to duty as they understood it. These people suffered all, sacrificed all, dared all, and died." Obedience to duty as they understood it. I do not always agree with everybody's understanding about what that means, but I will respect a person's obedience to duty. It is complicated, and it deserves more than wrapping ourselves up in the flag and creating warm fuzzies for ourselves by offering the appropriate rhetoric. We will have parades, family gatherings, and special sale events at Toyota and Dillard's. However, our faith tradition gives us another word. I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them, and the offerings of well-being of your fatted animals I will not look upon. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. It is justice. We stand at the crossroads and look. We remember the old ways, the pathways of justice, and from there we create a future together. Love and respect for veterans is not matched by our national actions. Veterans' health care and post-war benefits and support to families are cut and decreased. This is not unique to Republican or Democratic administrations or liberal or conservative houses of Congress. We, the people, are responsible because these government entities are our government entities. And let us not shake our heads in disgust because we think all government is bad and ineffective. Even if this simplistic analysis was true, where is the private sector's response to fill in the gaps in the face of record profits? This system has been broken for a long time, and we, the people, are ultimately responsible. We have condoned more wars and created more wounded veterans than we are willing to care for. I have said for many years that I pray that the political leaders who send people into harm's way would be as honorable as the people who serve in harm's way. And I am still having to say this. You know, veterans have marched on Washington, D.C. in the name of justice before. Remember the bonus march? And I would say if they do so again, we should be right there beside them. Paul Rykov, founder and CEO of Iran and Afghanistan Veterans Affairs, says, if we can't get this right, then we can't get anything right. I would call attention to the current rhetoric, building up tension, saber rattling with Iran. We have been here before, and the wounded and the dying that went to serve honorably went when political decisions were not honorable. We are responsible because we are the people. I recommend you go to CharityWatch.org and see which veteran organizations are rated the best for integrity. Make a donation. Volunteer at the VA hospital. Join the Scouts on the Saturday before Memorial Day and plant flags and be moved to tears. When you see a veteran with their family, go to them and thank them, the veteran and the family. But also, call, write, email your representatives and senators that we are not fooled again, and that the most marginalized people in our society are not victims again. That is how we honor our troops. That's how we honor them. Amen.